Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got another very interesting combination that I'm really looking forward to seeing what actually happens with it, because these type of shells have really struggled so far in our testing with them. So I'm curious if this choke is going to actually do anything better for us or not, or if these are just kind of not worth a lot of people's time. So I guess we'll just have to try it and see what happens. But as for those shells I brought out here today, I got out some of the Winchester Super X buckshot loads, but these ones are the 20 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 20 pellet load of 3 buck, moving about 1200 feet per second. And really, 20 gauge buckshot across the board in our testing. We've tried several different kinds of it, but they've all pretty much been mostly terrible, to be honest with you. I mean, we're talking 40-inch plus patterns at 40 yards, and it's just all over the place. It looks like a waterfowl pattern. So initially, I don't have the highest of hopes for these shells, but maybe this choke that we've got can actually tune them in a little bit. These are a buffered load, which should help, but they don't have a wad and they don't have any plating, and both of which I think would probably really help these out. So we'll see what they actually do. And as for the setup I've got to run them through today, I brought out my Stevens 301 20 gauge with its factory stock turkey choke, quote unquote. It's essentially an extended extra full choke. This particular one measures out roughly at a 580 constriction, but after a lot of struggles with these 20 gauge buckshot shells, they seem to want more constriction, and a lot of you guys have said running them in an extended choke really can help based on what you've seen out of them. So I figured I'll throw in the stock quote unquote turkey choke, which is an extra full 580, and we'll see what happens. It's extended, it's got more constriction, and might help these out some. It could give us a much better pattern. It could be absolutely terrible again, but we're just gonna have to try it and see what happens. And as for the test today, everything is the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards, I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity, and I've got the templates that we can lay up over our results. So I don't really have the highest of hopes coming into it, but you never know what something's going to do until you try it. So let's head over here and take our shot and see if this stock extended extra full can actually help these 20 gauge buckshot shells out any. Alright, so that round gave us 1102 through the chronograph. The boss claim is 1200, so that is 98 feet per second under the boss claim, but from what I can remember, these shells are typically around the 1100 feet per second mark. So even though it's a little bit low, it's nothing unusual, and we do have a 26-inch barrel, maybe 26 and a half if you include that little bit extended choke, and chances are the factory probably ran them through a 28 or so to get that number. So overall, it does make sense. So nothing too special for velocity, but what kind of a pattern did it actually give us out of that stock extra full extended choke? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. For reference, the white dot was the point of aim. The paper's 36 inches wide by about 42 or so inches tall, and we did have all 20 pellets on the actual paper this time, which doesn't usually happen with these shells. And I can tell you right now, that is a tremendous improvement over anything we've seen out of any of the 20 gauge buckshot loads that we've tested. Now, is that a great pattern by any means? No, not really, but we're moving in the right direction. I don't know if that's the extended choke or the tighter constriction or a combination of both, but we might be on to something. Maybe an extended 575 might be the ticket here. I don't know, but I did measure the farthest 2 points across on this pattern, gave us right at a 30.5-inch spread. So still absolutely nothing to write home about, but at least this is an even spread and we have all the pellets on the paper. And for something like a coyote hunt, that would absolutely be usable. I mean, it could probably take a deer and a hog as well, although it wouldn't be my first or my most ideal choice of a pattern. At least we now have a usable result, which is something that we have not been able to say before out of these shells, or any 20 gauge buckshot load. So the pattern, definitely nothing special, but definitely an improvement as well. So let's throw a couple templates up and get a little bit better of a reference as to how it actually performed. Alright, so first up here is our 10-inch circle, and we were a little bit high on the paper, so I did put it with the actual core of the pattern, and we had 5 out of the 20 pellets within a 10-inch circle at 40 yards. Still nothing to write home about, but typically when we are used to seeing either 0 or 1 pellet in a 10-inch circle at 40, that is a drastic improvement. So we're already looking much better as for a 10-inch circle, but let's throw a couple animal templates up and see how it would look in an actual hunting type of scenario as well. Alright, so here's our deer template, and I did move it up just a little bit from where our point of aim was since we did pattern just a touch high, but it is definitely a good enough pattern to get you a deer with it. Is it an ideal deer hunting pattern? At least in my opinion, probably not. It's still a little bit too broad for what I would personally like to see, but at least now it's usable. You could confidently take that out to 40 yards and get a deer with it if you wanted to, which is not something we've ever had out of any of the 20 gauge buckshot shells that we've tested through the much more open chokes or even a flush full or anything like that. So a definite improvement, although we still have a lot of room to go here, I would think. But at least it's good enough for a deer hunt. So now let's switch over to the hog template and see how it would look on a little bit smaller of an animal. And it'll also give us an idea on how this pattern would look on something like a coyote as well. And here's that hog template, and it's pretty much the same story. Definitely good enough to take a hog with it, and a coyote would be just a touch smaller than this template is, so good enough for them as well. So like I've already said several times, definitely a big improvement over what we had previously seen, going to this tighter extended choke, but we still have a lot of room for improvement as well. Maybe a little bit tighter of a constriction might be the ticket for these, which has kind of been what they've seemed to like as we go down in constriction of choke anyway, is the tighter chokes. So at least now we might have figured a little bit of something out. It's not a fantastic pattern by any means, but we've at least gone from a completely terrible pattern to a usable enough pattern, which for these is a massive improvement. So all things considered today, not a terrible result. It could have been way worse, that's for sure. Alright y'all, I apologize for the glare. The light's really bad out here this morning. I'll tone it down in editing a little bit for you to make it a little bit better, but what did you guys think about that performance there? Is that a fantastic buckshot pattern? Not really, but it is at least a usable buckshot pattern, which we have not seen out of any of the 20 gauge loads that we've tested. So that is for sure a massive improvement over some previous results. Now I'm curious, is it just the extended choke, or is it the constriction of the choke, or is it both? I have a feeling it's a little bit of both. So I guess we'll have to try it through maybe something like a 575 extended choke and see what happens. And I do also have a 585 extra full flush choke for that 301 that we might try it through. But at least now we are starting to figure these out to at least get some usable patterns out of them. But I guess leave your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the 20 gauge buckshot loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? And what choke combos actually work out well for you? Because for me, the tighter the choke, the better they seem to perform, because they've done terrible through anything full choke and less. So a mod choke or an improved cylinder choke is not the way to go here, that's for sure. But leave all your thoughts about it down in the comments, and maybe what other chokes might you want to see these shells run through, because at least now we're on the right track, which we were not before. So with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm gonna get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description down below if you're interested in it, but I'm gonna get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.